you're really cutting a lot of your shoot time down just by saying yes to getting rid of the small time wasters in your business. If you say no to those small tweaks, there's zero progress, right? There's zero progress until you find the one big thing, which may never happen because it may not exist.
Yeah, that's true.
1% here, 1% there, eventually you're going to have an efficient, effective system workflow as a photographer because you've cut out anything that's not necessary time-wise.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Pretty Focused podcast. Today we have Tialyn John with us. She is a longtime Pretty Focused coach. She's the author and facilitator of our mastermind. She has authored 2 bootcamps, 2 masterclasses, right, Tia? We were just calculating before I hit record. Like it is. So Tia has poured a lot into the Pretty Focused community over the last several years. I think Tia, you've been on our team since 2019. And so, man, she has just brought so much value to our community. And I call her our resident business expert because, you know, she pours so much into Pretty Focus, but on the side, she also has her own coaching business, which is really cool. So we literally have a business coach working within Pretty Focus with our students. And it's been so cool just to see their growth that they've experienced from your teachings, Tia. So we just really appreciate you.
Part of the team.
We love you so much. And so today we're going to talk about something that Tia is really best known for, and that is maximizing efficiency. And we're going to talk about specifically maximizing efficiency in your photography workflow.
Yeah.
It kills me whenever I hear, grads and students say they take 8 hours for a shoot.
Yeah.
It hurts. It physically hurts. And so if that's you, there is a better way. It shouldn't be that way. And so T is going to give us some really great tips today on how to really cut down on your shoot time to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So, Melody, when I first started food photography, I feel like I went at snail's pace. And so I had a full-time corporate job that I traveled for. I had littles hanging off my leg. And so there was a lot of things going on, and efficiency was a non-negotiable for me to make this a realistic career. And so I quickly learned that I could not spend half a day all day on shoots. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be not only like realistic time-wise, but profitable for me coming from the corporate world.
Right.
Hourly rate is a thing, right? And so I really started looking at strategies and processes. I love simple strategies and processes. That's my thing. Mm-hmm. And started looking to see where are the solutions. So I knew what the problem was. The problem was the shoot is taking forever. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can get stuck there in the overwhelm of it's going to take forever, that we stop to realize we have the power to create the solution to that problem. And so I started really focusing on the first thing was limiting my distractions. Okay. So as a mom, we get like little knocks on the door. Mom, are you almost finished yet? Or, your phone is sitting next to you and it starts to go off and you like answer it really quick, or you just even swipe the quick text message. And it sounds really simple because they're like, well, it's just a 5-minute interruption. And so we discount it as that's not what's taking my time away. But one of the biggest tips I can give you is limiting distractions, because science tells us it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds after an interruption to get back into deep focus. And
I believe that.
Yeah. And so, which is why block scheduling is such a popular thing. It's not because it's a personality. It's because it is a strategy and structure that works, because it intentionally eliminates distraction within a block of time to have you really just focusing on one thing. Because anytime you're multitasking, you're switching your focus back and forth. And so the last thing you want to do in your photography workflow is spend your entire day refocusing. So biggest tip, right?
Yes.
In your schedule, set aside some block time that has the least amount of distractions. Some of you I know homeschool, that's not always possible, but setting healthy boundaries and being really clear on the time you need to be able to do your deep work within your workflow for photography is going to be important, so that you're not, that 5 minutes isn't turning into almost a 30-minute refocused time frame. And
Sure.
you spent 8 hours on a shoot and it was all refocusing.
Yeah. So Tia, this sounds so easy, but I mean, you just mentioned homeschool moms. What about the moms with littles? They got 2 and 3-year-olds literally wrapped around their legs. And you started that way because, I mean, your girls are older now, but in 2019, they were not.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. I will hear, we'll do it during nap times, which some parents are blessed with nap times. Some of them. My oldest, she was great. My youngest was colicky. And naps were not a thing. And so I was more of, how can I keep them distracted, keep activities going, but also being realistic with the kind of shoots I took on. And so really early in my career, I realized I can't spend the time rolling out the pie dough. I have to have shoots and ideal clients. So if you're doing recreations, I was looking for clients that had shorter recipes, right? If I'm selling, I'm not doing these big complex recipes, because my reality was I did not have enough time blocks to be able to complete them and not be distracted. So that was one of my strategies that I did, right? And it's because I recognize, I'm like, well, this recipe is from scratch, 20 plus ingredients. And then I have another client over here, 6 ingredients. And so it's like, okay, I love this client, but realistically in this season, this client is going to be best for my business and for time on shoots. And so I think you have to be realistic with your season and the kind of work you can take on. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I know this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I think it's one worth talking about. Is you can choose the clients that you work for, because some people are like, I got to take what I can get. I have somebody that comes to me and I have to say yes, or like, this is the only client ever that if I don't say yes, this may never happen for me. And like, how do you so confidently say yes and no to clients when, you know what I mean? Because that's a scary thing, saying no to clients. Yeah. Even though it might be in your best interest, but like, you're just like, well, I have to make money. How do you navigate that?
Yeah. So first thing first, you have to have financial security, right? And so I'm going to tell you to say yes to clients for financial security, but that doesn't mean if you have a client that's not a best fit, that you're not sourcing for a client to replace them for one that is a better fit. And so, and that's not mean because the client that you replace, I am a firm person of, there are other photographers that can serve that client well. And you can get recommendations when you send your email that you're no longer going to serve them, that you wanted to take care of them and you felt that these photographers would be a great fit for their business. And so, or directing them back to the buyer's club, right? A source where bloggers can go and find clients. So that's a big one. But what we don't want to do is take on a client that's not the best fit, especially for our scheduling with recipes, and live in that area, right? We don't live there. So see it as seasonal as your business is growing. If you need the financial gain, if you don't need the finances, maybe this is a supplemental income, maybe it's fun money. If that's your luxury, I love that for you. And so at that point, then you just have to say, no, this isn't what the best fit is for me, and be okay with that. And know that there's a better fit out there that you can serve that's going to be better for your schedule.
Okay. I think that's great. You know, take on the clients, but still continue to look for other clients, because too, Tia, you probably didn't realize that, okay, the rolling out of the dough and all those steps you learn that the hard way by being in that situation, being like, okay, oh, this is not going to work for me. So you really learn your ideal client by going through these different experiences and knowing what you like and what you don't like. And then you can kind of tailor it. And then all of a sudden you have your ideal clients and you've got like the life that you love, right?
100%.
So, okay. That's great. Thank you for going down that little rabbit trail with me. Cause I think it's so good too, to know, like, well, how do I take on client, how do I take on clients that I love when I'm trying to say yes. And so I think that works. I think it works really well. So let's move on now to your next tip.
Yeah, so this tip is really great, especially too, even if you're one who's doing more complex recipes, maybe you enjoy that level of work, you love serving those clients. Those are the kind of recipes in your shops. And this goes great for recreations and if you're selling, but we want to ensure that we are spending our time on the part of the photography workflow that's actually driving the value of the final product, right? Okay. And so when we think about the value of the final product for us is the strength of the hero shots. And so that is the value. If you're selling, it's strength of the hero shots as well as the quality of the recipe, because that's your client's, what's the word for it, Melody?
Bread and butter?
Their bread and butter. It's their yes, it's their reputation. That word got away.
Their reputation, yep.
And so to be honest, as someone who's selling, you have two qualities, right? The quality of that recipe and then the final product. And then for recreations, it's the final product of the heroes, because let's be honest, people are not scrolling Pinterest and clicking on a recipe to make it because that process shot looks so good, and so we just have to watch where our time's going. So you don't want your time to be eaten up by process shots, because that's not where the value is in your product. And so it's kind of a mindset switch. Obviously they need to be quality photos, but we do not need to be spending all of our time on them. We need to just grab the shot, move forward, move on. Yep. And so that's the other thing, just make sure, and editing, not getting stuck in editing too as well, which we talk about, straight out of camera as perfect as possible. So it's little tweaks, and you can leverage tools like presets and stuff to be able to get to where you need to go. You should not be spending a lot of time editing and post-production, which as well as overshooting. So when we talk about wasting time in shoots, if you're only delivering, 35 total images, 25, whatever your number is, and you're shooting 100, 200, you are wasting time, one, taking all those photos, and two, having to cull through all of them before you can edit them. And if you're editing a lot of them and then narrowing it down, you're really wasting a lot of time. And so again, we're thinking about the final product we're delivering. That's where the value in our time needs to be, is where that value's at. And so that's for sure. Like a number 2 tip, right? And so those overshooters. And two, I know we've talked about, I think I mentioned it in the Make More Work Less Bootcamp. Sometimes when we overshoot, it's from a lack of confidence, not knowing that we have the image and we can move forward, or not thinking or feeling like it is good enough. Yep. So it is really important that we gain that confidence. One of the ways that I'm big on doing that, I have like little templates that I use. And so I know I have the hero variety I need, right, before I deliver it to my client. And so that's a really big one, just the confidence of moving forward. So you're not shooting a million times wondering if you nailed focus.
And do you have those, and those templates are found in the Make More Work Less Bootcamp too? So many people have raved about those templates. And those templates alone have just cut down on their shooting time, because as much as you can overthink the process, you can overthink the hero 10 times that, right? And so these templates just kind of help you move through your heroes, because, I mean, let's face it, you have to get a variety. Because you can create a blog post with 3 great heroes, with maybe 1 or 2 great heroes, but that does not give you a lot of options to market the recipe. Correct. On search engines and social media. Like whenever it comes to Pinterest, you really have to test to see what kind of photos work best. And so if you don't have a variety, you have lost all like testing power. You know what I mean? You have no juice to be able to test to see what is going to work for your audience. And then when you know that, then you can kind of create more of that, right? And so those templates really help to get that variety without overthinking everything.
Yeah. And like one of the things I think of, like, the value is in the variety, right? How many, when a blogger is looking to purchase a recipe or hire you for recreations, they're looking at the value they're going to get. So I think values and variety, if you can only give them one solid photo that they feel could have the potential to go viral, or one solid photo that they feel confident will get pins on Pinterest, whatever it is, it's not going to be as valuable as a shoot where they're like, oh my gosh, all 12, all 15 heroes, this is gold mine, right? Every
Yep.
single one of these I would put on my Pinterest board, and I feel it could bring me value. And so, yeah, value and variety, just remember that.
I love that. I just wrote it down. The value is in the variety.
Yeah, the values and the variety. And there's efficient ways that we can do that, right? And so, yes, templates, I've always said it takes 5 minutes to plan, but if you don't plan, it like adds on 30 minutes to your shoot. So it's like, even me, sometimes if I'm in a really big hurry and I'm limited on a shoot, I have my composition templates just right next to me as a quick reminder, grab it and move on, because I don't have time. And I was talking to a grad the other day too, Melody, for her grad success call. And she's like, I have them laminated. It made my heart happy. So I know I'm going down a rabbit trail. And she's like, I have mine laminated. And so
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, they're extremely helpful. And so, which goes kind of into another tip as well, is that a lot of times when I'm looking at any type of workflow within a business, I'm considering their processes that they're using, how efficient that they are. And a lot of times I will notice if there's not a lot of repetition, that is costing time. It is causing you to stall because you're trying to think of a new way every time to do something versus going on autopilot. And so when you're going through shoots, which one of the reasons why I do templates that I have for different compositions is because it creates repetition and you can get faster with repetition. And so in anything that you do, right? They're like repetition, it becomes just a natural habit that you're stacking. And so anything that I do from a shoot from start to finish, it is the same order every time because it allows me to get quicker and I don't have to think about the next move, the next step, or what I'm going to do. Yeah. And so streamlining it, right, as quickly as possible with the actions I'm choosing to take.
Yeah. Well, I think James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits of be okay with the boredom of repetition and monotony, right? To be okay with that. Because that's, like you just said, the repetition is where it happens. Sometimes as creatives though, we're like, it's just the same thing over and over again, right? And I'm like, I feel you. I know that. So, if you feel that way, work on a passion project. But whenever it comes for work, and when you are, when you're on the clock, right?
Yeah.
The repetition is, again, what makes you faster. And that's why we also have our students do so many recipes before they graduate.
Yep.
Because the repetition is where they learn and they get faster, and like you just kind of want it to become second nature, right?
Yeah.
Now you and I can go through, we've been doing this for years. So it's like, it's just, we know exactly what we're looking for. Exactly. Yep. And so that's the goal, is we want all of our students to move towards that repetition so they can get faster and stuff. So create those processes where it's the same, make yourself a checklist before you start. The thing that I always forget is my rag to wipe my hands off. Mm-hmm. And I always have to go back, get my rag, right? And then come back. And it's those things that cut into your time, that takes in this going and getting your rag, that cuts into your productivity. And now it takes 23 more minutes to get back into that focused work because I didn't get my rag to wipe my hands with.
And you're beating yourself up. How did I forget this again?
How do I every single time, So make yourself a checklist of the things that you need for your shoot that you're going to need.
Yep. And I don't know if you guys are like me. So if I have a moment where I'm like, oh, I have to go get something, I forget it. I'm walking by, I see something else in my house. I'm like, oh, I should probably switch over the laundry. Or we do these kind of things. Or, I forgot to do this. And then you go and do it. And you're like, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, I was in the middle of a shoot. And so I should probably get back to it. And it sounds silly, but that's reality, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I was cooking something last night and had it in the oven, set the timer, then went out to go sit with my boys while they swam, and then watered the garden, and then rinsed off all of my plants, and then sprayed them with neem oil, and then crap, I have something in the oven.
Yep. 100%. That's the worst thing you want. That's the worst thing as a photographer, that you're like, oh my gosh, something's in the oven. And
You have to pay attention to those things. There's no coming back from a burnt recipe. You got to start all over.
And that's the worst way, right? To lose time is having to reshoot because we were distracted or didn't pay attention to the tiny details. And now we're doubling the time of our shoot. And that's one of the worst. Oh, one of the worst.
That is for me, Tia. I have to admit this. I'm ashamed to admit this, but this is just real talk. Is that I have learned that I struggle paying attention to the details. This was me whenever I was working regularly with clients. That was the number one reason why I had to reshoot, is because I thought I knew better than the recipe and I did not read it thoroughly. That's why in the course, I'm like, read it and read it again and then read it 12 more times, because I would read it, but I would kind of like glance through it and I would miss important parts. And I remember one time specifically, I was doing these, this is when I started, I was doing these, the bacon wrapped jalapeno bites stuffed with cream cheese. And I left the jalapenos whole. You were supposed to cut them in half. And I sent them on to the blogger and she's like, you didn't even follow the recipe.
Oh no.
I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I didn't even follow the recipe.
Yep.
This was 2016 Melody, by the way. And so the tiny details matter and they will lead you to reshoots. That is where you will waste the most time, is because you didn't take the time to plan correctly.
Well, and we've heard stories from bloggers where they've bought a recipe and they had the ingredient shot and there was ingredients missing. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know what I mean? It's the simple things of paying attention to the details.
Yep.
So that we're not, and I've done that before. I don't do it anymore because I have processes and checks and balances, right? Yep. And so where I go through and now I double check the recipe, because it's worth taking 5 seconds to double check a quick list versus having to buy more ingredients, measure everything out, or try to Photoshop it to where it's not noticeable. That even takes time in Lightroom because you still have to get the product, set it on the board. You know what I mean? That still takes way more time than what 5 seconds takes to just how many process. And that actually happened to me when I was doing multiple shoots in a day. I put all the ingredients on the board and my assistant was helping me at the time. And we had the ingredients on the board and there was one ingredient, it was for the other recipe. We had swapped them out, not recognizing. And I'm like, if I would have just looked through the list really quick, I would. And so that was my hard learning, and so we have our learnings.
Yep. I just did. Well, I was like, that was 2016 Melody. Well, listen to 2025 Melody. Okay. Because I ended up having to do an ingredient shot 3 different times because every time I kept forgetting an ingredient. And it takes time to rearrange when you add in a new ingredient. It takes time to arrange those. I would say the ingredient shot is probably what takes the longest when you have multiple bowls on there. That's where I probably spend more time arranging and getting it right, just because you'll have different size bowls and a different number of ingredients every time. But 3 different times, Tia, because I kept forgetting the ingredients because I didn't take 5 minutes to sit down and figure it out.
Gotta love yourself sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Grace.
So anyway.
Speaking of ingredient shots, I want to go back to, we were talking about time for value, right? Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things I noticed when I first started in this industry, ingredient shots were a thing. And I think I know the photographer and blogger who started that. I'm not very happy with them because now it's the death of all of us because of you guys. just kidding. But, and I get the importance of the shot and what it can do for clients. And I know sometimes, so those of you who do beautiful styling for your ingredient shots, if that's something that your ideal client wants, desires, and needs, that's great. Just make sure your value's matching your time for that, right? And so that's just because I know sometimes we can kind of get in our heads too on the ingredient shots. And now I have processes on how my ingredient shots look laid out. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're like, well, it looks the same. For those of you doing recreations, that can be great for clients because they're hiring you for consistency for their audience. And so consistency is one of the best things you can deliver. Absolutely. One of the best things. The worst thing that you want is to deliver something and a client's scared because they don't know what they're going to get because it's different every time. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to certain things, and so remember, sometimes like repetition can be really boring, but we have to think we're not serving us as creatives. We are serving a client and an audience who has needs of consistency. Yes. And so those are definitely talks to have with your clients. Because one of the things too, and I know the Bootcamp, the Make More Work Less Bootcamp, I talk about understanding your audience and their needs. So we're not giving them extra stuff they don't need, which is time from us. And so like recreations, I'm not wasting my time on images I know they're not going to use, right? If you're selling to a certain audience and you understand their needs, you're not creating images and selling them that they're not going to use. And that really cuts down on shoot time. Yeah, absolutely. So good. Consistency builds trust. It does. It does. And so it can get boring as a creative. It can. But hey, you've got clients who you are serving regularly. Yep. And you have clients who love creative freedom too. So think about best fits for you as a content creator for bloggers, right? Yeah. And so you do have those that are really big on creative freedom and they're okay for you to play and have fun. Search those clients out if that's your branding and who you are. And so, Yep. Absolutely. So good. And so, and then, another tip too, I was going to mention when you were talking about like the hand towel. We expect for shoots, like when I tell people how quickly I get shoots completed, they're like, no way, that's not possible. Or they're like, I'm not sure. I'm like, no, believe me, I used to take like a day, half a day, not anymore. And so it's all these little things. I know sometimes like I remember being in actually my bedroom when I was using natural light and serving clients, crying over pecan pie, kids knocking on the door. I'm like, all in there. Traumatic. This was 2018, Tia. Yeah. 2018, Tia. We've all been through our years, our seasons. And anyways, the problem felt so big. The amount of time I was taking in shoots felt so overwhelming, especially being a mom, already having a job, the weight of it. And I felt so stuck and it was emotionally hard, right? And in my mind at the time, I've learned now differently, but at the time it's like there has to be either no other way, this is the way it is and I have to accept it, or it has to be some big answer. I must be doing something big wrong. And so I was looking for big solutions. But what I've learned throughout my journey as a business owner, that sometimes when our problems feel really big, we're looking for a really big solution. And that's not always the answer. And because of that, we ignore all these tiny things that actually give us the results that we want because we don't think they're powerful enough to overcome this huge emotional obstacle that we're dealing with. That's so good. And so sometimes we're looking like, gosh, this is taking forever. I must not be enough. I must not be fast enough. I'm going to tell you, it's never fast enough. I'm not sweating when I'm doing my shoots. It has nothing to do with me like moving my hands faster or running back and forth. It's not these big things. It's all these tiny things that stack up. Example, like not being prepared to have the hand towel next to you to wipe off your hands, wipe off your board. Because every time you have to go to the sink, grab it, come back, depending, some of you are in completely different areas of your house, not even close to your kitchen, that adds on time. And then you have to get refocused, or you see a distraction because the laundry's on the couch and the dog's on the laundry and you're like, oh, I got to get the dog off, like maybe get this folded or put it on a different couch, whatever it is. And you lose time. And so, yes, you do. Yep. Yeah. So a lot of it's the tiny things that we stack. And so I'm really big at really looking at efficiency in all of the areas and shaving it, even if it's a couple minutes, but you shave a couple minutes here, 5 here, 10 there, 20 there, you're really cutting a lot of your shoot time down just by saying yes to getting rid of the small time wasters in your business, really stack it. And so that's one of my biggest tips. Don't underestimate the power of small tweaks and what they can actually do to help give you the results you want. Because if you say no to those small tweaks, there's zero progress, right? There's zero progress until you find the one big thing, which may never happen because it may not exist.
Yeah, that's true.
1% here, 1% there, eventually you're going to have an efficient, effective system workflow as a photographer because you've cut out anything that's not necessary time-wise. And now you're running like a well-oiled machine, which is nice.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. Just remembering all of the small things add up because we say no because we don't think it's powerful enough.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's like, well, I'm not going to stop doing that because it's not going to make much of a difference. So why would I stop? And so I would even say too, if you're home, something that helps me focus, this is really with writing. I have not tried this with photography yet, but I will put in focus, like noise canceling headphones, right? And I will either turn on like a sound machine, all sound goes out the window, right? I don't hear anything. Or I even will have like alpha wave. It's not music, it's sound. But that helps me to focus. So if you are really struggling with focus internally, maybe there's not external factors. Maybe you do remember your rag and you don't have to run, but maybe there's some internal distractions using those noise canceling headphones, and maybe, listening to music, maybe if music helps, or maybe a podcast helps. Hey, maybe you're listening to this while you work, you. And so we can be distracted internally and externally. So make sure that you've got those external boundaries in place, but you're also using tools to help you stay focused internally as well.
Yep, 100%. Because, and Melody, I love that you said that, because when we think about it, as humans, things trigger us, right? Certain noises and sounds, like the dumpster outside. Oh crap, did I take my dumpster out today? All the things that we hear that distract us, that take our mind away from what we're truly focused on. And I love deep focus music as well. That is one of the things that I will put on. And that's a trigger. That's almost telling my body it's time to get to work.
Yes,
music is going on. I have a playlist for starting my process shots, because let's be honest, there's some days we're dragging our feet and we really don't want to do a shoot. And so I have a certain playlist that I put on. It's very happy music, love it. It gets me kind of going and in the mood. And that's the music I listen to get me started on my shoots. And then I'll go into deep focus music until I'm shooting reels or something where I can't have that music on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Put a little pep in your step.
Yeah.
Especially when you're home by yourself.
I know, right? Yeah. And so I'll do, I don't know who it's by. I can't remember, Boogie Shoes. It's a really old song. I want to put on my boogie shoes. That's, I'm just having a good time. And so, but sometimes we know what we need. And so, but we are the solution. Every time we are the solution. And so it's sometimes we can look at a problem okay, well, how are we going to solve it versus continuing to stare at it?
Yeah. And now we've talked about this on another podcast with a grad, but I want to just share some really great practical things. Let's talk through some things when you have littles, when you have somebody crawling through your legs and crying because they want your attention. You and I have both been there. We talked about nap time. Rowan stopped napping, and honestly, when he stopped napping, those were probably some of the moments that I was least proud of as a mom, because I would lose I would lose it.
Yeah.
Just being real, people. I would get so frustrated because I just wanted them to sleep. And so if you are a mom with young kids, I want to let you know you are seen. You are heard, you are loved. We get it. So we don't talk from a place of oh, you should just do this. Because, there's going to be just different things. Every day is different when you've got young kids, but I know some great things are busy tubs. If you can put together some busy tubs for them, different, obviously nothing messy, but you have busy boards or you've got busy tubs. One of my friends puts together a morning tub for her daughter. And that's what she does every morning while she's getting her coffee. She's doing her morning devotion. She's unloading the dishwasher. She's making all those things. Her daughter's at the table and she knows that's the boundary, right? That's what she's done since for years now. And so her mom always changes out the busy bin or the morning bin, right? With different books, and there's different coloring, and there's different little quiet activities for her to do every morning. And so you can do something like that whenever it's time for you to shoot.
Yep. Well, and two, I'm glad you said that. I know a lot of times we'll try something and it doesn't work immediately like we expect it to. And so we're like, this will never work. When the truth is repetition and structure. And I've definitely found with kids, right? Like it's frustrating trying to introduce a new structure or boundary with a child.
Yep.
Because they are a child. And so, and so it's just not the easiest thing. But even, I'll even say this with, you might not have a child, but you may be having a parent who has Alzheimer's or is in final stages, and the interruptions, maybe you are their main caretaker and you're trying to do this job. There's so many different things that we kind of go through. And so I always try, and you can arrange shoot times. I mean, I know there were times I decided to work, especially when I had a full-time job with corporate, I would work on the weekends at night. So if you're married, have a spouse, take them out of the house, right? If you're a single mom, see if you can find a neighbor. I do recommend too, sometimes it is a lot cheaper to hire a sitter, $15, $20 an hour, just for you to get multiple shoots done, right? Yep. So to have somebody there at the house with them, or, have them outside the home. So if there's a lot of things you can do as well, that you might just kind of want to source out and see. But I know as a mother, I changed my schedule to shooting at night after they'd gone to bed.
Yep.
I don't recommend taking away the amount of hours you need to sleep. And so there's things that work for everybody, right? Some of it's structure, quiet activity. You do this with a child, and other times it's, I just need to bite the bullet and outsource so that I'm emotionally better person.
Yes. Yeah. And one of our grads mentioned, because they had littles, and she says, like, I finally just did it. I just hired like a neighbor, high school student to come over and watch her kids. And she also has her wash her dishes.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was like, like, at first it seemed like she felt bad for asking somebody else to do her dishes. Right. And I was like, no, that is genius. Like,
paying her. You're paying her.
You are paying her to do your dishes. Like, yes, that is a boss move. That's what that is. Like a boss move. Be like, hey, I need you to come over, a couple of hours after school, hang out with the kids and, help me with the dishes. Boom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's easy money for them. And that's great for you to have that. And so we don't often think about outsourcing that.
Right.
But.
And the thing is too, I just want to mention, and I know, because I don't want to, I'm like, oh, I could really go down this rabbit hole as a mom. And so, but one of the things is I see a lot of moms and they get guilty because they're like, well, the reason I'm working from home is to be home and be a mom, which is true. Mm-hmm. But we have to be realistic. If you're having to work from home financially, you can't ignore the fact that that is your reality. And sometimes it's better to outsource that so you can have deep focus work, get it completed, so you can be your best version of you when you are with your kids, versus having your kids there. There's a lot of interruptions. Now you're feeling like you can't be your best outside of work because either you're still present there or because you're a little bit annoyed, let's be honest, that you've been interrupted the entire day. And so it's not relaxing and fun playtime with your kids right now because you're still emotionally adjusting as a human.
Yes.
So I think it's just really important too when we weigh, like, should we outsource? Because it is that mom guilt of like, well, I want to be home for a reason, but also there's probably a reason you're working and for financial stability. And that is a way of providing for your children. And there's nothing wrong with bringing somebody in to assist you so that you can financially provide and be emotionally your best once work is completed. And so I just wanted to put that out there, Melody, because I know some moms struggle with that.
Yes, I still do. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think that it's like at the end of the day, if you ask for the help, because we don't often like to ask for help.
Yeah.
Even inside our own home, like our spouse or our kids, we won't ask for help and we tend to carry this load. And we weren't meant to carry all of it. No. Right. And so we can get down a whole other rabbit trail here. But it's like, ask for help, whether that's inside your home. Like my boys get paid an allowance every month, and a big part of that is helping with the dishes, and they will load and unload multiple times a day, right? They are 11 and 12. You know what? They do their own laundry. They've done their own laundry for years at this point. And we taught them from a young age to fold their clothes. We got the cute little cardboard folder, right? Now it's not perfect, right? They still shove their clothes in, but what is Dan Martell, right? He says 80% but done by somebody else is 100% awesome.
100% awesome.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think you got to let go of some of that perfectionism.
Yeah.
When you ask for help, when you ask for somebody to help with the dishes, when you ask for somebody to help clean your house, when you ask for help, doing the laundry, like you're going to have to let some of those meticulous perfectionist things go.
100%. Yeah. And you can outsource too, like, to help your workflow, because you can make more sometime as a business owner when we're talking about like time, cutting your shoots down for like videography work example with editing, sometimes you can make a whole lot more money outsourcing that than doing it yourself. And so, or I know there were times and seasons where I hired somebody to clean my house because I made more per hour working in this industry. And so I could provide somebody else with a job, do a shoot, cover them for a month, taking care of the house and get more time with my kids.
Yeah.
Or, free time with a spouse, whatever it looks like for you, or, going out with friends. And so, there's a way to be efficient in your business from a time wise. And sometimes that is outsourcing.
Yep. Yeah. And this is why, we're going at it today, Tia. We need to book another episode recording to really talk about this, about buying back your time and outsourcing. But this is why knowing your hourly rate is important.
It is. Yeah.
So you know what you can outsource and know how much to pay people too.
Right. And then know how much time to spend. Right. So like if you make $50 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is, it's like, why are you wasting your time taking a process shot? You know what I mean? That's like has zero value. Like that's not where we want to grab the shot, move on, have a process for it or whatnot, or, the way you prep, like, and that's too, like, you have to think about, like, I'm doing my dishes right now. This is not like this. I'm obviously getting paid for it because it's part of my workflow. But those are the things like, I should outsource this because then I could spend more time. And we've, there's different things you can outsource as a business owner to get back time to do more profitable areas of photography in your workflow, which is like the heroes, right? Because I've had assistants in the past where they could do the process stuff and only, I as a creator photograph the heroes if I needed to only do that. And so where the money is, right? All my time and attention. And so, and having an assistant too is great for prepping, and it saves you time. And again, knowing your hourly rate allows you to see when you can do that.
Absolutely. Because here's what I hear you say. You can make $20 an hour, or you can make $75 an hour.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to make?
Yeah. Right.
When you kind of think, well, of course you're going to choose a $75 an hour rate.
Right. And doing more of what you love. Like, I don't want to do dishes. I don't want
and I'm just throwing say that again.
I just want to take the pretty shots, I want to do the final hero shots. I don't want to do all that other stuff. Like,
and I'm just throwing numbers out there. That's not like a guarantee, but I do know there are grads who make, $75 to $100 an hour because they're efficient with their time. And Tia, according to some of your research, like, how much do doctors make in America?
Oh gosh, now that you said that, I'd have to go back and look. And so depending on like their specialty, I'd have to Google it. Like, I just knew when I Googled it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know grads that make the same, if not more per hour than like a general family doctor does. Yeah. Which is insane. And so I was looking at that. I'm like, that's incredible. And it's because they've mastered their time, right? Like, we spend a lot of hours mastering our skill set. If you spend that same amount of time mastering your efficiency and your processes, you are going to make so much more per hour. You're giving yourself a raise. That's one of the fastest things you can do. If you want to raise, get more efficient with your time and know how to use it wisely. That's the fastest way to get a raise, and not have to do a price increase. And so, of course, if you need a price increase, 100% do that. But then just give yourself a bigger raise, right? And so,
Right. Yeah. But it's important to note too, that it's like whenever you're feeling burned out, that's not an indication you need more money, because your client is not responsible for you being inefficient.
100%.
And so a lot of times we think that's the case. And instead of looking at ourselves first internally to see what we can do differently, it's like, oh, I need to charge more.
Yeah.
And so
business owners, we know our market, and so we know who we're serving. And so there are certain budgets that can be hit, right? There's certain ceiling caps on what can be charged. And so I think it's important to remember too, that we have to remember who we're serving and create a product that fits that audience. And that product should also fit our ability to be efficient, so that we are making an hourly rate that is great, and it is not, causing us to work minimum wage or for pennies. And so efficiency is your job as a business owner. And creating a product that matches the industry that you're in within the time frame that it can be done and the quality be there is all your responsibility as a business owner. And that's why it's so important to get your shoots down, so that it can be sustainable, because it will not be sustainable if you're spending hours and hours upon shoot serving an audience that's, doesn't have $10,000 to pay you for a shoot, because it's not a brand, if that makes sense.
Right. So I love that. And you guys, we talked about the Make More Work Less Bootcamp, and we talked a lot about the strategies. What Tia talked about here is you're going to learn in depth inside of that bootcamp and get access to those templates. And so if you're feeling like, if you're like not in your head so much through this whole thing, we've got the link to the Make More Work Less Bootcamp in the show notes, down in the description. So check out that bootcamp and make more work less, because why not?
100%. Yes.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, we're really big, like work smarter, not harder. Like, please don't work harder. Like, you have more important things to do with your time, like live life. And so we do not work harder. Put strategies, simple processes in place, and maximize it. Like, focus on being efficient so you can pay yourself your worth. 100%. Yes.
Amen. So good. So good. Tia, thank you so much for joining us today for today's episode. You just always share so many good nuggets. Like, I love it. So many good nuggets. And so thank you just for pouring into our community. And we just love you so much.
Yeah, I love you guys. And so thanks for watching.
All right, you guys, I'll see you back here for another episode of the Pretty Focused Podcast.